a chance to meet AJ Blazek yesterday. Seems like he has a ton of energy. Is that one of the things you like about him?
No, I think so. I mean, in the process, it was pretty quick, and it's not like, you know, you can think you can go and interview a bunch of guys, right? I mean, guys have really good jobs, and to think you're going to bring them in there and spend a whole day and do the interview process, I think is a little bit difficult. So we had known each other a little bit in passing and had obviously mutual friends and some things, and obviously he was very highly recommended. But I actually had an opportunity to sit down with him for a couple hours and just have a cup of coffee, and there was pretty much no doubt exactly what he was all about, and it had a lot to do with the energy and the passion to be an offensive line coach. And I thought that was, to me, what was as important. Yes, fundamental. I mean, there's a lot of really good coaches out there, but just the passion to be an offensive line coach and what it means, and knowing a little bit more of the history here was definitely a no-brainer.
Can I ask a quick follow-up? All hires are important, but that position in particular, is that one you want to get right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think even after the first year of recognizing the things that we need to, do here and what's special here, I knew it from the outside. But I think in progressing what we needed to do, I thought that was as important as any other spot. It's not the easiest thing in the world sometimes when you got to make some changes, but that was one that just because of the nature of, what it is here and what it has been and what we need to continue to do. I say to get back, but to be what this place has always been and to start with it up front, it was something we had to have done.
So when exactly did the conversations begin about making that change at that, position coach position?
There weren't a whole lot of conversations. I mean, it's just, as you get the season wrapped up, there's a lot of things that kind of go in it. Timing is obviously important, whether it's recruiting or even your own guys. But it was something that just, I kind of knew it was going to be done, but never had really addressed it or talked about it until after the bowl game.
And as far as following up on that, as far as the offensive line, what do you want to see more out of from that group? What are you hoping this change brings about?
Well, I just think it's a constant growth, right? I mean, we're an offensive line driven program. This has been an offensive line driven team for a long time, and it doesn't have to change no matter what you call your offense. So it's not just the sheer fact of what do we need to change and we need to do. I mean, there's going to be a lot of growth. And I mean that in the guys that have played a lot, the Jack Nelsons of the world and Riley Maulmans of the world, but also there's a lot of youth. We don't quite have the depth that you would expect for us to have and what we had last year. So the development of some really young guys is going to be really critical. And so that's kind of where that whole energy and sometimes a little bit of something new was something that I just thought it was necessary for us to continue to grow. Not that they weren't in a good place, not that they didn't do some really good things, because without their play in the last few games, we wouldn't have had an opportunity to play in a bowl game, in the one like we did. But where we are and where we need to go is just something we got to continue to grow on.
Last kind of tag on that. What is Jack McNeil's role in the program now as he's been reassigned?
Jack, we don't really know. I mean, that's kind of the hard thing, is trying to figure out how it all kind of works together. So we'll figure that out as we move forward if he's going to be a part of it. We love him. He's a great guy, and trying to feel the dynamics of all those things, to be honest with you. And without us being together and actually starting to do some of this stuff, it's kind of hard to figure out shit.
So with the early enrollees, I think it's 11 of them out of the 22 scholarship signees. Just your experience as a coach, not just at Wisconsin, but Cincinnati, Ohio State. Just what effects do you see with that being an early enrollee can have in terms of success down the road?
Well, it's huge. I mean, just the time of winter and spring, everybody thinks about, I just want to get in there and be able to do spring ball. Well, the reality is the first 3 months, 2.5 months, is probably the most critical time to get in there with those guys, and the strength and conditioning is where the greatest growth happens. And then you go into spring football, which is really about fundamentals, about development. And if you're a young guy, especially an incoming high school guy, that's probably as good a time as you're ever going to have. Because once you get to the summer, it starts becoming a little bit closer towards preparing for games. And surely fall camp's about preparing for games. So for us in the development of the things we just talked about, in particular the offensive line, getting these guys in here early in the first 3 months, just to, strength-wise and conditioning-wise, and then to get them to spring football, gives us a great chance. Hopefully they aren't guys you're counting on to play, but definitely are going to be some guys that are going to, maybe be in some roles where, we'll see how that develops throughout the entire season.
A little more general question, Luke. You used the phrase earlier, you knew from the outside. How different is it here, a calendar year later, from the last time you came to Milwaukee for the Big Red Rally, for you?
Well, I guess I know what to expect when I walk in there, but I think the biggest difference is once you've had a year under your belt, and I'm sure every year is going to continue to be that way, but you can be a lot more focused on the things that you know you need to do better. And I think in the first year, it's so general, you're trying to do everything. And don't get me wrong, we got to improve in every area. But I think now sitting here, I feel like there's a better focus on all the things that we need to do. And in particular, I'm talking about on the field and in the building of the program. So in some ways, there's not a comfort level, but you have a better idea. At least I have a greater idea of the things that we need to attack, whether some of the changes we had to make and some of the things by nature, you were able to make changes because guys leave. All things that you know exactly what it is that you've seen and what it is that you need. And now you can really kind of attack those things in a different way.
One of the things that you did attack was the linebacker position, especially through the transfer portal. What do you want to see from that group, maybe differently than what you saw in 2023, and how do you think you kind of found those guys in the portal?
Well, we'll see come season time and even spring football. But I think it was the general overview of all that the length we've talked about, that our ability to get longer, to get not to say bigger, but longer guys, and to get the athleticism was, I thought, something we really just had to continue to enhance and grow in. And the guys that we did go out and get, I would say by nature, are going to be a little bit longer guys. Probably guys that are going to be a little bit more comfortable in space in a lot of different ways. But I think that's what kind of we're talking about. After you go through a year and you can recognize and see some things that you need to do as a program and as a team, and in particular some of those positions, and then you got to go and attack it. And sometimes things work themselves out by nature, and then sometimes you have to make some changes, and sometimes you got to really go out and work at it. And so I think at that position in particular, you're going to notice a bit of a difference, and maybe probably just length and maybe some athleticism.
So even with like the transfers or early enrollees, I know it's only been a few weeks since they've been officially in town, but how do you see them adapting and acclimating to the program and interacting with some of the older guys that have been around?
Again, it's been 3 weeks or so, and it's not anything negative. But I think that as we get a little bit deeper into some of the winter conditioning stuff, you see some of the adverse situations. Obviously we evaluate everything. I think the unique thing that we did maybe a little bit different than I've ever done is in that month of January, where most of the time you're on the road for 5 days. You're out Monday through Friday recruiting, and then maybe back on a weekend for a junior day. We basically were in the office Monday through Thursday, and then maybe Thursday and Friday we would go out and recruit, mostly just the Fridays, because there's 20 new guys in our program, and I thought it was more critical right now for us to be able to recruit virtually and do some things on Thursdays and Fridays, but to be around these guys so we can make sure they're getting acclimated, we can get better relationships, we can see the things we need to make sure that they're the ways in which they're fitting in. And the great thing about it is I think one of the strong suits of what we do is our strength, with Coach Collins and those guys, and to get those guys acclimated into our program and how we do things. It's a great way to start before you ever even think about getting to the football field or even to a meeting room. So I think that's where that ability to kind of step into the program and I would say kind of baptism by fire, but they recognize what the culture and environment really is in those first couple of weeks, just being in the weight room with a lot of energy.
What did you, as far as the Alex Grinch goes, what did you like about him in the hire, and how do you see him and Tressel working together?
Well, Mike Tressel's our defensive coordinator, and titles are titles, right? I mean, they don't, to me, they don't mean a ton of things. Everybody's a part of what it is that we do, and to be another guy that's going to be a big part of how we play defensively and what we continue to evolve into is what I think Alex brings to the table. I mean, You guys maybe have had a chance to spend a little bit of time with them, I think, the other day, but it's not going to be hard to figure out that, highly, highly intelligent, and vast of knowledge, and had an incredible amount of experiences. And even to me, some of the greatest things are the things he had to go through the last couple of years. There's any of us that have been in this business long enough knows that you've learned some of your greatest things from times and adverse situations and things that don't go well. And regardless of what that is, I think that he's going to be a great addition to the things that we do. Regardless of what that title, like I said, is, he'll have a big part, not just coaching the safeties, but and continue to help us evolve the defense, and be a right-hand man in some ways to Mike Tressel. But I think it's just a unique situation of something that, like we talked about, after being a year here and recognizing what it is that you need, I think he fits a lot of different molds to be that.
Luke, you brought along Max and Pat, but then you kept Casey.
Mm-hmm.
What is Casey? Like, what do you like about him?
Well, obviously there's a great tie to obviously the history here and offensive line in particular. And Casey, obviously is a passionate not just about football but about this place. And it's unique for a guy that played as long as he did in the NFL, and to have the experiences he has to enjoy the recruiting side of things as much as he does, and then to really have not just enjoy it but have an eye for it. Along with having some pretty good knowledge on how to play the game up front. So I think that for our guys, twofold, recruiting wise, it's phenomenal. A guy that actually has lived it and been here and has a history of it. But even so, for our guys within our program, that to have another guy that they can kind of sit down and talk with that has played the game and has a great grasp knowledge, a great knowledge of in particular the offensive line play. The tough thing for Casey is he's probably a jack of all trades. There's so many different things that he can do within our program that he can get pulled a lot of different ways. So for me and him, I sit down with him just the other day just trying to figure, okay, what is the exact, let's make sure we keep this line that you got here so that you can continue to get good, get better at what it is that you do, and not everybody pulls you in 15 different ways, saying, well, he's so good at this, he's so good at that, because he's got to live a life, and he's got to get back to see his kids at times as well. But no, he is a great guy, and that's the tough thing for him, is because he will do anything you ask him to do.
I know it's been only a short time, but what have you learned about Tyler Van Dyke in the time that he's been in the program? And you mentioned the guy that all these guys getting in the weight room. We've seen a bunch of videos of him training just with everybody else. Just what has it stood out about Tyler so far?
Well, that would probably be that, and it's hard, like you said, have they done any football and things like that? You're allowed to do some more football nowadays. I mean, you can see them throw the football, where, 5 years ago you had to close your eyes, and if they were throwing out there on the indoor, you would walk by the window and try to get a couple glimpses. I wonder what it looks like, So you actually can have an opportunity to see them throw the football and see those, but to me it's more important, how do you mesh with these guys in this program? And to be a guy that kind of enjoys working out at 6 a.m. with the offensive linemen, to me is something that Tanner Mordecai kind of set a precedent with, and a lot of things will follow right in pace with. But that's where I think I've been as impressed with anything so far. And obviously there's still got a ways to go, but he's never batted an eye at anything. All of a sudden 6 a.m., you're lifting with the offensive linemen. You could maybe assume sometimes that maybe quarterbacks aren't used to that, or maybe that's not the first choice that they had, but all indications are he's picked up right where Tanner's left off with how he's fit in and how he's meshed, and how he's kind of embraced hanging out with the guys and to be a part of everything that we do.
So, talked about junior days a bit ago. I know you had about 3 of them in the past few weeks. Just what's the goal that you hope to have with those type of days? I know you can't talk about commitment or whatnot, but
everybody's got a different philosophy in junior days. We don't try to bring in like 35, 40 guys and go to a basketball game and shake hands with guys and spend a little bit of time with them. We specifically try to say, hey, if we're going to bring them on campus, let's bring no more than like 10 to 15, 10 to 14, just so that we can spend a lot of time with them, individual attention. Which in times can be difficult, right? I mean, there's a lot of the kids in the state that you would like to invite over, but sometimes you don't spend enough time with them and neglect them, and it kind of works in counterintuitive at times. So more than anything, just kind of get them on campus, spend some more time with them. Obviously go through the recruiting process, but everything is being sped up. And in a lot of ways, I think some of the 25s have been, I say, overlooked a little bit, but so much of the transfers and things, and there's a lot of time spent there that, maybe some haven't done as good a job with these younger guys. And so it's important for us to get them onto campus, to spend more time with them. I would say a majority of every kid that came on a junior day was here on a game day visit, right? But game day visits are really much different. And your opportunity to spend any time with the actual coaches and sit down with them and really talk to Coach Collins and see what some of the the insides of the strength program, you don't get those opportunities, which are good. I mean, don't get me wrong, game day visits, but this is definitely a different time where you get to meet their families and spend a little bit more time with them and get a lot more personal to try to figure out in our ideas who are the right ones, not just the best ones.
You talked about the kind of craziness of the calendar, especially when you get in December and January. Have you been able to find time to take a break and reach?
I'm here, aren't I?
Well, that's fair, but I mean that's not really a break, is it? You're kind of working.
Well, you don't think this is a break? I mean, well, I love answering all these questions. No, it's different. I mean, there's no doubt that that signing day was Wednesday, and I don't know that anything is any different. You know what I mean? It doesn't stop. It's a dead period now, but nothing stops and nothing changes. So, no, I don't know that I could say that there's a great opportunity to take some time. To be honest with you, the coaches are off tomorrow, and then they're off the following Friday. So that doesn't sound like, well, you gave a whole day. But hopefully those are kind of like little, we still got some guys that, got families someplace else that got out of there tonight and going to go spend a 3 or 4 day weekend or 3 day weekend. But it is difficult. I know for me, I'm probably a bad one with that, just for the sheer fact that I don't like to be away, So there's a balance. I think the best time is probably going to be right there after spring. There's so much to do right now and so many new kids in your program to not be here every single day, to not be around and not be in the weight room. I wouldn't be able to answer the questions you guys are asking me. Right? So I wouldn't be any good of an interview if I wasn't around there every single day and could spend some time with them. But I think that's the uniqueness right now in college ball in particular and ours. I mean, 20 new guys in your program. There's a lot of times, even when I first started in this, that after signing day, you have a week off or 5 or 6 days. And I just think it's such a critical time with so many new people in your program that it's really hard to do.
Luke, I think you mentioned recently, I know you know Mike Vrabel really well, but you mentioned him just kind of coming around or something like that. What do you hope to get out of something like that, or like a friend?
Well, that was Tauscher bringing that up on his radio show the other day, and I always harass him on. I thought it was just me and him basically harassing each other on the phone. I didn't realize he was actually like on ESPN. They put him on ESPN radio. I had no idea, so I didn't really think that it was going to go any further than. I thought it was just a little, he was doing it out of his basement or something. We were doing a little radio show. But I did mention to him that I had talked to my buddy and it said something about, hey, coming by and spring ball and spending some time with us. So we'll see. I know that, I don't think that he's going to, be coaching this year, so to speak, in the NFL. So I'll continue to, entice him. So. As the weather gets better, he's a guy that enjoys to golf, so there's some opportunities to kind of do 2 for 1. But no, I think it would be a great opportunity for all of us, for our kids as well. So we'll see.
Let's say with someone like Monique Felix, who's your director of football student services, just talked to her a few weeks ago. Just what is her impact on the team, and what does she mean to the program with what she does?
Well, all the things that you don't have time to do, right? I mean, so many things that, you recruit these kids and then you just assume that, like, okay, they signed, now when do they get here, right? Well, do you know there's applications, there's housing contracts, their parents have a bunch of questions about things, like, they aren't calling me, right? They're not calling me because I probably couldn't answer many of the questions. So to have people like Monique that do all those things, that follow up every single day with the counselors, making sure we've got all the transcripts. I mean, there are so many things that probably nobody has any idea of it doesn't get talked about, especially in the recruiting, right? Because you recruited them, you signed them, and then you just figure everything else happens. And so there's so many more things that people have to do, and for families to feel comfortable, she probably does about 90% of that. And then even on some of our, when we've got to, have reviews, and guys have to get into school, there's a lot of hoops and things that they've got to be able to do, just like a normal student. And, for her to do as much of that work, it doesn't get talked about nearly as much. And then sometimes after it's done, even the kids and people forget about it, but it is so valuable to us and continue to grow the program and allow us as coaches to be able to spend more time, doing the things that recruiting wise and even building relationships. All those other things are done by other people, and money is one of them.
We got time for one more if anybody has one. If not, we'll wrap. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Coach.